Two-Gun Kitty, the Catnip Outlaw here, and I want to do my thoughts and opinions on AR-15 lower parts kits. Are they all the same, whether they're mil-spec? You know, what are the things that could differentiate them from company to company? Pretty much anyone that does something with AR-15s has their name on a low receiver and parts kit. And prices could range from low 20s to about $100 odd. So what do you expect out of them? And when you build with just a cheap kit, you're not going to know the differences, but when you try out different ones, you'll start to see some of the biggest issues. A lot of it's going to be the feel. You can feel the weight of a cheap part compared to a better company's part, and you're going to feel that quality. I've done stuff with Seekins Precision, CMMG, Palmetto State, Anderson, KE, XTS, some no-name brands, and you know, definitely seen trends in certain brands. CMMG here, very consistent. You know, the finish is usually pretty consistent. The fit and finish on their parts is pretty consistent. I do recommend them. Palmetto State, they're fine. I didn't notice anything major wrong with them, but you do feel a little less quality when you're handling the pieces. But had a couple of kits that were short a piece here. I think I was missing 1 or 2 pieces in kits. That's common. There's a few other companies that had that. The one thing they do that kind of makes up for it is they give you an extra D10 spring, which is anticipation you're going to lose those. So, you know, Palmetto's fine if you're getting it at a bargain price. KE was a company the first batch I used, I had problems with their D10 springs being very tight. I would have to snip a piece off for the rear D10s so that takedown pin would move smoothly. The next batch or 2 I got was fine. Seekins Precision, good quality kits. You're going to pay more for it. Do recommend those. The brand I thought was the worst was XTS, which is very common at Academy Sports. They charge you $50 and it's probably worth about $25. The springs just feel very cheap, especially their trigger springs. The trigger springs on those just felt like mush. And I ended up using leftover CMMG springs from Oops kits in those builds because I just did not trust those trigger springs. The D10 springs were junk. Often the mag release did not have a nice smooth feel on some of them. You know, definitely a cheap parts kit. The M&P Smith & Wesson kits, they overall were fine, except their finish was a little off. I didn't care for the finish on theirs, but I didn't have any major things stand out on those builds. And, you know, like I said, you do feel a quality difference between a lower and a more expensive kit. So take that into consideration. If you're having problems, the fit and finish may not match up great with your receiver. To me, that's the parts kit. It's not your receiver. A lot of people want to say their Anderson lower is poorly milled out because of the fit. My parts didn't fit. Well, my trends say the parts are the issues. So there is a difference. Try and, you know, work within your price range if that's an issue. For kits that don't come with a trigger, I don't like seeing them priced over $40. if you're getting a trigger in your kit, it should be costing you about $40 to $70 with a trigger, trigger kit in it. Most of them are going to have your cheap standard mil-spec grip with them. I usually don't use those unless I'm doing a build for someone else, and I'll go with that. I'll switch out to a Magpul Plus type grip. I notice in a lot of the cheap kits now are starting to give you kind of a Magpul trigger guard type of a feel. You're getting that extended trigger guard, which is nice to see in them. It's not the typical mil-spec straight trigger guard that you still see in a lot of kits. And I think this kit, I noticed that was one of the things that was missing in the Palmetto kit I used earlier. It was the same thing. It didn't come with the trigger guard. Luckily, I have extra ones. But yeah, quality control on the parts that they put in is not great, and I'm starting to see a trend with Palmetto State. And I picked these up in a trade from someone. I'm not too worried about it since I got a good deal on that. But yeah. Now, if you do have a problem like with CMMG, you email them. They'll ship. If you say you're missing a part, they ship it out to you. I had a problem with they had the wrong. They gave me 2 front takedown pins and no rear takedown pins in one kit. They sent me out one. I had another one where there was a piece missing from the mag release. They shipped it out. So very easy to deal with CMMG, and they're very quick with getting that stuff out to you. Palmetto State can be a pain to deal with customer service-wise. Getting in touch with them is very tough, so I'm not even going to worry about that. It's not worth the aggravation. Anderson parts kits, I had 2 that were missing a spring on the triggers. So it's very common for parts kits to be missing something, but how companies handle that is pretty big in my book, and CMMG does a good job. So yes, there's going to be variations, so don't go too cheap. If you do go cheap, inspect your springs. The springs seem to be one of the biggest things, especially dealing with a trigger. You don't want to have too cheap a trigger springs. So hopefully that helps you out with your future builds if you're getting new in the AR building. So, Two Gun Kitty signing off.